Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show. Man, we've got a lot to talk about today. We've got the play-in tournament to get into. We've got Team USA basketball, what a roster that looks like. A ton of different news items that we're going to touch upon. But first, the big story of the day, Jontay Porter, banned for life. Keith, this is not a surprise, but still a dramatic headline, banned for life from the NBA. And now that we've got news of exactly what went down, I think the league is incredibly justified in doing what they did here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we knew that he was being investigated for sharing information on games where maybe he influenced the outcome of some bets by sitting out, leaving games early, things like that. But it's come out he also bet a game he was inactive for, bet on the Raptors to lose. For those who don't know, Jontay Porter is a two-way player with the Raptors. So that's a pretty huge deal there. So you have that part of it. You have the essentially fixing portions of games by just, influencing the way different things went. And this is, for me, with when you come to the totality of all of it, being the first player in the new world of gaming, right? Where the league has partnerships with these gambling companies. It's legalized in increasingly more parts of the country in the United States. The NBA was going to come down very hard. They came down as hard as you can possibly come with a lifetime ban. And I think it's 100% warranted. And do I think this means this is it? We're never going to see this again? No, but I do think you're going to have a handful of guys who might have been open to the idea of it, saying, "Hold on, let me hold off on that. Maybe I'll go a different direction to make a little extra money."
And I think there needs to be understanding here because I've got people that are chiming in. I'm seeing this all over the place on social media. But what about Miles Bridges? What about him? Why is this a lifetime ban and that is and blah 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 blah. Look, that's not saying that what happened with Bridges or what happens in other situations where players don't get banned for life is not as bad. We're not comparing the two things. The problem is with what Jontay Porter did specifically for the NBA. We're not making a moral stand here. The NBA is not making a moral stand. The problem is if the NBA comes down and says, well, the Miles Bridges situation was worse, or whatever situation we want to put out there, whatever it is that we want to say out there, this was worse. Therefore, Jontay Porter's suspension is going to be less than that. No, because the problem is if you come out and you say you're banned for, hell, if you say you're banned for half a season, that's not going to deter anybody from doing it in the future. You're banned for 3 games or something like that. And the thing is, if you don't take care of this, if you don't wipe this out to the very best of your ability, you're done. That's it. There is no NBA if you don't handle this. And that's why this has to be a lifetime ban, specifically when you get into what really happened here by the league's findings. I mean, the conversation about, well, he was feeding information to somebody who was betting. He was betting on games. He was betting on the Raptors to lose, which is something that he can influence most directly, right? If he was betting on the Raptors to win, he could play his best and they could still lose, but you can influence your own team losing to a higher degree than anything else. So the things that he was betting on, and then the way this all played out in terms of him being involved, feeding information to people, everything we feared that was going to come to light in this, everything we feared that this was going to be, ended up being exactly what it was. Keith, I was really hoping it was going to be something where some high level bettor overheard Jontay talking to somebody and he said, "Oh, my back is hurting" or something like that, and that information somehow, and he had no part. That's what I was really hoping this was going to be. No, this was specifically done for the purpose of making money, which is what we feared. And with that being the case, they had to go this route.
Yeah, and you lose me with the comparisons to the what about Bridges, what about
The what
player
about ism.
X and Y
Yeah.
and Z and all that. It's not that the NBA is saying any of them are varying degrees of more okay than anything else. There are also very strict limits to what the league can do in certain situations. These are this situation, the Adam Silver in the NBA have full power to ban Jontay Porter, and they did. with what Miles Bridges did, that was not within the commissioner's power, was to hand him a lifetime ban. It simply wasn't. And that would have been challenged. It was already challenged what happened anyway. If we go back and remember, there was a reduced punishment because they agreed the equivalent of time served on a suspension of,
Right.
all right, when you miss that whole year, we're going to reduce the suspension next year because the Players Association pushed back on it. So now you can argue maybe the commissioner should have power, or the board of governors, or whoever it is should have more power in a situation like Miles Bridges. And I'm not going to argue against you on that. If that's how you feel, I have no real issue with that. But why they limit these things is they don't want it getting into situations where it is the league is having to really determine level of badness of these events, because what they don't want it to become is, hey, this player we signed to a really stupid contract got a parking ticket. Let's give him a lifetime ban and wipe his contract off our
Sure.
books. Because unfortunately, as ignorant and dumb as that hypothetical scenario may be, someone would push for it at some point if it was what was best for them competitively. This is a competitive issue on the floor. That is why the league is coming back and saying, no, you directly influenced not necessarily results, but the games themselves,
Mm-hmm.
where by taking yourself out of games, by maybe not playing up to standard, you influence that. Not to mention, even though you didn't play, you bet on the Raptors to lose, your own team to lose. And I've seen some people like, well, the Raptors were losing all their games down the stretch anyway. They wanted to. Why is that a problem? You just can't bet on your team to lose games. You just can't, because what if he
You
had
can't bet
played?
on your team, period.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but what if he, to your point, yeah, if he's betting on them to win or himself to have a good game, and he goes
Sure.
out there and aids in that, it's still not okay.
Yeah.
But what happens if they're down one and they run a play and Jontay Porter says, "All right, we got to lose, so I'm just going to shove my defender in the back, so
Right.
it's an offensive foul and we don't even get a shot off." Like, you just can't have that. Like, those are the things where it becomes an integrity issue for the entire league. And now I know people are going to be, "Oh, what about the referees? What about all?" I get it. I get all that stuff, but they now believe they had proof that he did this, and that's all they needed. And he got what was coming to him. He made stupid decisions. I'm very fond of the phrase, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Well,
Mhm.
you played the stupidest game and you won the stupidest prize.
Yeah. And this is, Keith, this is not just a punishment for Jontay Porter. This is a warning for the future. This is setting the precedent. If you do this, your career is over. And that's in the NBA. And I think that's an important precedent to set,
Yep.
because this will, well, again, like you said at the top here, this will not deter everyone. This will deter a lot of, I think, of players. It will make guys think twice who are considering doing something like this. They'll go, whoa, wait, I'm going to be done if I get caught. And not only did he get caught, but he got caught pretty quickly, and they figured out everything that he did here, right? Like, this is not, oh, they only found out one thing. They found out when he bet, who he bet on, the amounts, everything
Who he
came out
bet
here. So
with, like, meaning
mhm.
who partnered with him to put in bets. I mean, and obviously, if someone's, what I believe it was something like an $80,000 bet that would pay
Yeah,
out 1 million on Jontay Porter, like, obviously that's going to raise red flags, and
sure.
that is where, to some extent, the legalization and the partnership of all of this is a good thing, because it does allow, well, wait a minute, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Versus if some dude's walking into the back room of his local watering hole and dropping this bet, or he's putting in an offshore bet in the Cayman Islands or whatever, that becomes a whole harder thing to track down. And in I understand some are now using this to stand on the pulpit of ban betting or ban all the betting advertising and all these
Hmm.
things, while others are saying, well, wait a minute, this partnership relationship helped get this caught. It would not necessarily solve things. Like with all things, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, because the
Hmm.
reality was, when none of this was as above board as it is now, I don't remember the last player to get banned for life for gambling reasons. Like I can't even tell you who it was, and probably because it was before either of our lifetimes. We've seen players in our lifetimes get banned for drugs and
Sure.
other issues. Sure, but not for gambling related reasons that I can remember. And here we are now, right? Like this is the new world we're in. I'm not naive enough to believe Jontay Porter probably wasn't the first, probably won't be the last, but by giving this swift and this harsh of a punishment, you have now basically told everybody else, we're gonna catch you. And if we
Hmm.
do, you're done. Like you are done. Like that'll be it. And I think that's a line that is fair and reasonable for the league to set on this. One last thing, just because a couple people did ask, there's no cap tax implications on this at all. He was on a two-way contract. He was set to be a restricted free agent this summer for the Raptors. That's no longer going to be a thing. Obviously, it's like he goes away, and there's no, nothing left behind of this. Their season was obviously over and all that. The contract would have expired anyway. It'll either still expire or my assumption is I'd have to dig a little deeper into this. Not probably going to because again he's a two-way guy,
Hmm.
but there and I get there's been a lot of people too that have said, what if this was a star? What if this was an all-star
Sure.
level guy that did this? One, an all-star level guy probably doesn't do it because he's probably making millions or
Yeah.
going to make millions upon millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's not dumb enough to put that at risk. But I mean, I don't know. That's the real. I don't know. I don't know what the league would have done if this was an all-star with 5 years left on his contract and one of the faces of the league. I really don't know. I'd like to believe it would be the same exact punishment, but
Hmm.
I'm also a grown-up and understand sometimes there's levels to these things, but I really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would, I mean, hopefully that's not something we have to find out. Hopefully we don't find out what the league's response would be because that doesn't happen. But this is obviously a much bigger conversation on now the availability of gambling. Everybody can do it depending on what state you're in and everything, of course, to varying degrees. As Stu, the studio cat, decides to walk across my screen here, um, you get to now do it from your phone, and it makes it super easy. And so the accessibility of it now, the gamification of it, as I've got a tail in my face here,
I love it.
um, makes this type of thing more likely to happen. And so the NBA's response here was obviously necessary, and unfortunately, it cost him his career. I'll also say this: I've had a lot of people ask, "Well, is this going to impact Michael Porter Jr.?" He will be asked about it. I'm sure that's going to be
Yeah.
coming. He will be asked about it, but I also think it's very easy for him to shut down. Just say, "Hey, I'm not taking any questions about my brother," and that's
Yeah,
it.
my get. I would not even be surprised if Nuggets PR puts that out there.
Yes.
Now we all know how that goes. It's like don't touch that stove. It's hot. So what do? You
Right.
touch the stove because you were told not to. Like if they tell the media don't ask him about it. Now what they could do is, I've seen this, not obviously this kind of situation, but other situations where what they'll do is they'll just end it then. If anybody goes to a place where they don't like it, media
Hmm.
availability is over for this player. And often then that means a conversation. They may also leave it up to him to address how he wants. I would expect there to be some form of, hey, my brother is his own man. He did what he did. I'm
Yeah.
focused on trying to help the Nuggets, defend our title. Like in some version of that. And that's fair. And that's probably the answer he should give. And of course, the NBA is going to continue to dive into all this because it said in the press release on the banishment of we're still researching and finding things out. And clearly, if they find out Michael Porter Jr. was involved in any way, there's going to be punishment that will be handed down for him as well. So we'll see. But for now, I think it's just this is a completely unnecessary and unwelcomed distraction, even if it is a minor one for the Nuggets.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, like I said, I believe minor is the correct word. I think it's something the Nuggets and MPJ can navigate, but it will be asked. The question's going to come up. It's going to come up. So